Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about skill. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what do you think would happen if all software engineers were equally skilled? Well, the salaries would go down probably. That would be my guess, at least a little bit, because then every boot camp develop, or depending on how we want to spin this, if everybody was equally skilled, then we would have to either take all the really good developers and make them bootcamp level developers, or take all the bootcamp developers and magically give them seniority. And depending on which way you go there, the entire industry will collapse, or we will get to a saturated market with very highly skilled developers. But assuming here that we're going to take this semi-serious, if we're just looking at a single software team, which is usually a good unit to look at when you're dealing with skill-related questions, because at the end of the day, that is the single software developer or the software team that is the atom that makes up everything else in IT. All the other parts of the industry of the entire industry is built on that structure. So if you have a team of people who are fairly adjacent in terms of skill, I can only tell you that that is one part of it. I think that I'm being a little bit, because I mean skillful could technically mean this depending on how you define it. It's all about perspective here for me. So I'm just going to clarify that a little bit. Skill or being talented. That if we're just talking about from the perspective that you are good at coding, that in of itself will not be enough, because even if you have people who are equally skilled, they need to be able to work as a team. That's the second thing, because if they can't work as a team, you will and this happens a lot, you should know that. There are many software teams where they have good developers, an entire company is full of good developers who can do the job, but they don't coordinate, they don't work as a unit, and things really don't go all that well in many cases when that happens. Or at the very least, the system will suffer. You can still produce results, but it's going to be a little bit like an ungreased cog or something. It's not going to work as well as you want it to, right? And that's ideally where the managers should, well, the managers should be the grease, and some of them are really greasy. They should be greasing the cogs so that things move around more smoothly. Uh, that's one thing to look at, and another one is to also look at motivation, because motivation is a very important part. I have worked with many very skilled developers who don't really have the motivation to do a good job. And as I like to say to my coworkers who keep on saying that test-driven development is the most important thing in the world, and we have to do it as well as we can. No test is more useless than the test that doesn't get written. The real challenge is to figure out how do I get my developers to write tests. Nothing else matters. And it's the same thing with motivation. Doesn't matter if you have the best developers in the world, if they don't care, they're not going to do a good job. You can pull in any, like Wozniak, you can take in Linus Torvalds, or it doesn't matter. I mean, there are many famous developers, and put them on something that feels trivial and boring to them, and they're going to do a shit job if you force them to do it. Because being engaged and actually caring about the work that you do is enormously important. It's a big factor in the quality of the software that you produce. And that is the whole reason why companies such as, say, Google and Facebook and so forth try to have very high standards, not just at a technical level, but also at a personal level. You've probably heard of the term rockstar developer, and that is exactly what the vast majority of companies want, because they know that if they have a motivated software developer, and since IT actually has that sort of stuff, it's actually I mean it's really hard in some industries to find someone who is both skilled and motivated. Most of the time you might be able to find someone who is skilled, but I mean I know that this comes as a shock, but there's not that many people who are just really dreaming about working in a small cafe or at McDonald's. It's hard to find motivated workers in some cases. So you have to build it. And that's a bit of a challenge in many industries, but in IT, at the very least, it's a very feasible goal. And I would say it's even more important in many cases in IT than in a lot of other cases, because if you don't care about the work that you do, you will be lazy in a bad way. And a programmer who is lazy in a bad way is a person who produces legacy. And legacy is the killer of productivity in IT. But if we assume that you mean skillful in the sense that they all have around the same skill level in terms of technical skills, they have social skills, so they can talk to each other, and they also are motivated, then there is nothing they can't build. They just need time. That's the one thing. And that's the thing that, of course, is always hard, because every battle or everything that you do in IT is always a battle between stability and quality and things like that versus delivery speed. That is the endless tug of war where you need to figure out, okay, how much time do I have to spend on quality, and how much time do I have to can I focus on speed? Because you need both, and without both, the whole system rots to absolute shit. And then we pull it up one level, which is where the question actually gets broader. Now you don't just need people who are like talented developers or equally talented. You need managers and salespeople and basically an entire company of people who are equally talented, or at the very least very, very talented. And if you have all these ducks in row in line, that is a company that, assuming now that they are in a space where they're actually able to do this, because it could be that you work in a company where you don't really have a business that is going to be explosively disruptive. But if you have all these things and you have the right product at the right time, you take over the world. Practically, that is what you do. And the companies who do this the best, who have most of that really manages to find the right combination of all of this, they are the companies that you know and love or hate, depending on your perspective. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you are able to find, if there was a magical way to make all developers equally skilled and equally skilled in not just technical matters, but also in social matters and in motivation, if you can find it's the dream scenario for every single company, because if you can put together a team like that, they will produce like nothing you've ever seen. And I have seen so many examples of the what I like to call the band of brothers, or it doesn't have to be brothers, but the band of people, the small. I really do believe that if you get a small group of people together and they all have talent, social graces, motivation, and they care about each other, they have each other's backs, there is nothing they can't achieve. They will outproduce anything, and they will change the world if you just give them the right problem and the right resources to work with. Have a great day.